watch. Sit and watch and watch and watch, and slowly that chatter would die into a murmur and then become absolute silence. And then you used to stay silent for like a couple of minutes, you know. And a couple of minutes of silence is a lot. Like time hangs, in the silence. So a couple of minutes we just sit like this. Some of us would not know what to do. Look around maybe, like, and then say one of the hardest things in life to do is to remain quiet. Hmm. Resist the urge to say something, do something. If people become very awkward when there's silence. That's why I said it's an awkward silence. But can you be comfortable in silence? When you're comfortable with outer silence, then you'll be comfortable with inner silence. Then you'll be able to remain silent inside even when there's so much of chitter chatter, all that stuff happening outside. Okay. So today your bhajan was silence. Let's start. Om Pratah Smarami Hridi Samsfuradaatma Satchit Sukham Paramaham Sagatim Turiyam Yat Swapna Jagar Sushuptamavaiti Nityam Tad Brahma Nishkalamaham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha Tapo Bhikshina Papanam Santanam Vitaragina Mumukshunam Apekshoyam Atma Bodho Vidhiyate Bodhonya Sadhane Bhyohi Sakshan Mokshayika Sadhanam Pakasya Vahnivajnanam Vina Moksho Na Siddhyati. Okay, we'll chant from verses. We'll chant from verse 13, or maybe, yeah, verse 13 to verse 17. Verse number 13 to 17 of chapter 3. I'm audible, right? Okay, because
Yes,
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 yes, you're
I'm
audible.
wearing these AirPods and it's like a strange silence. It's like I'm speaking in a vacuum. So, okay. यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तः मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापाः ये पचन्त्यात्मकारणात् यज्ञशिष्टाशिनः सन्तः मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः भुञ्जते ते त्वघं पापाः ये पच्यन्त्यात्मकारणात् अन्नाद्भवति भूतानि पर्जन्यादन्नसम्भवः यज्ञाद्भवति पर्जन्यः यज्ञः कर्मसमुद्भवः अन्नाद्भवति भूतानि पर्जन्यादन्नसम्भवः यज्ञाद्भवति पर्जन्यः यज्ञः कर्मसमुद्भवम् कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षरसमुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षरसमुद्भवम् तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्म नित्यं यज्ञे प्रतिष्ठितम् एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रम् नानुवर्तयति यः अघायुरिन्द्रिया रामः मोघं पार्थ न जीवति एवं प्रवर्तितं चक्रम् नानुवर्तयति यः अघायु अघायुति अघायुरिन्द्रिया रामः मोघं पार्थ स जीवति यस्त्वात् यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः तस्य कारण विद्यते यस्त्वात्मर यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात् आत्मतृष् आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते. Okay, so this entire world revolves on the spirit of yajna. If only we step back and observe, everything in nature is simply performing its function. It almost seems unemotional, it almost seems dry and cold, but it's not. It's a beautiful symphony. This is not moving for some reason. Okay, yeah. Seems like a beautiful, it is actually a beautiful symphony. So there's a beautiful word I learnt maybe 15 years ago, or maybe, yeah, a little more than that. It's called ensemble. You know what an ensemble is?
Can you spell it, sir?
A group,
E N. Yeah, yeah, go
so
ahead. Spelling bee
SEMBL.
champions.
Is a
Spelling bee
collective.
champions. And ensemble is used in the context of an orchestra.
It's a group of
So when you have an orchestra playing in a, in a concert or something, an orchestra is a beautiful ensemble, a collective. It's a beautiful ensemble of a variety of instruments, a variety of artists performing their own role to come together and create what is music. If the ensemble doesn't function, what you will have is a cacophony. I'm using all musical terms. Hmm. I haven't studied music. I have no idea. I'm just trying to show off. Uh, I don't know anything about music, but I like these words. That's why I'm using them. So this world you see around you is not a cacophony. It's a beautiful symphony. Opposite of cacophony is symphony. Now the symphony is only brought about by this ensemble which is functioning together. So similarly, this world is an ensemble, functioning beautifully, everything playing its role, every being playing its part in the cycle. And you'll see this, back in the day when I was in college, this is the first time I got the inspiration for, something like this. I used to work in the organic farm, and that's because of that. When I joined the ashram, I was given a name. It was called Kacharawala. I was called Kacharawala because back in the organic farm, I started what is called composting. Some of you may know what is composting. So this is composting done at a not at an industrial scale, but definitely at a big scale because in the organic farm we used to maintain a compost from food waste from the entire college. So imagine over 2,000 people eating every day, and that food waste, either uneaten food or sort of the the sort of leftover stuff or the even the
Peel,
parts of
all the
vegetables and
peel.
peels and all of that. Correct. So collecting all of that and then creating an entire compost mound out of that. And that was the first time. I mean, I was a city boy. I had no idea. I had no idea where the tomatoes and onions I ate came from. Like most people still don't know. So that was the first time I actually saw anything close to, okay, what is this entire cycle? But what was particularly amazing was this process of composting. Yeah, farmers call it black gold. Hmm. I know if you're in commodity trade, then coal is called black gold. But for farmers, compost is black gold. Why? Because all these peels and food leftovers and all this stuff you would, discard. You would generally discard over a couple of weeks. If you mix it well with dry leaves and stuff like that, you don't need anything else. You just need to add some dry leaves, and you need to put in a little effort of making sure you don't stuff it together. You have to give it some air and stuff like that. It's called aerobic decomposition. And within a couple of weeks, all of that waste stuff will turn into a black, muddy like, you know, dirt like consistency. Between you and me, I used to go, imagine you will never jump into trash, right? But once it turns into compost, it's so fresh. I've spent, how people jump into haystacks. So you jumped into a compost pile. Uh, and if it decomposes well, it smells really good. If it decomposes badly, it stinks. Uh, So if it's anaerobic decomposition, if it's not proper decomposition, oh, it's terrible stench. But if it decomposes well, you'll have it as a room freshener. Imagine having compost as a room freshener, you know. So and it develops a lot of heat. So if you dig into it, the entire compost pile will develop a lot of heat. But the point I'm trying to make is, even though I'm reminiscing about the compost pile, the point I'm trying to make is that one of the first places I learned the lesson of. There are hundreds and hundreds of bugs in that compost who are eating away that peels and eating away the waste and turning it into something that is so nutritious. That same waste becomes incredible fertilizer. And you have millions and billions of bugs that are simply chewing away, and their entire lifespan and entire life purpose is to come into this world and convert that orange peel or that banana peel into fertilizer. What's the purpose of that nematode? What's the purpose of that worm? What's the purpose of that bug? Yajna. This is a yajna happening. Everything in nature is functioning meticulously, beautifully, playing its part. It's playing its part and getting out. Hmm? Some bugs live for a couple of days, some insects live for a couple of weeks maximum. You may say, oh, what a pointless thing. What a pointless life. No. What they do in those couple of days or couple of weeks ensures a certain cycle of nature. Uh, we should all watch this natural Discovery Channel, all these documentaries. Even seemingly insignificant beings. We think we are humans, we are all important, we are at the center of creation. We should be, we develop prizes and awards for ourselves. But we are just like bugs in the larger context, in the larger scheme of things, in the scale of billions and billions of years. What separates us from bugs? What separates us from butterflies? What separates us from moths? What separates us from insects? We just have to come here and play a part. God made the mistake of giving us Vani. God made the mistake of giving us Vani, so we chitter chatter complain. Tak, 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 mera, mera, my, me. Huh? Bugs don't have that Vani. So, jokes apart, everything in nature is functioning meticulously and just playing its role. If you're a keen observer of nature, the monsoons come and bring their rain, the clouds dissolve, they play their part and get out. The trees grow, they take from the soil and they give back to the rest of nature. It's a beautiful, beautiful symphony. We're all taking from nature and we all have to give back to nature. That's just it. If we have that attitude, and you may say, "Oh, I'm not taking. Why should I give? I didn't get as much as the other person got. My neighbor got more than me." That's your ignorance speaking. We humans have the habit of only focusing on what we don't have. We have the habit of focusing only what we didn't get. Sure, not everybody got everything, but if you try to add it up, you lose count. You lose count of your blessings. So the spirit of yajna we're talking about, karma yoga. This is the foundation. This attitude is the foundation of karma yoga. How much have I received? Let me give back. Let me play my part in this scheme of things, and I'll be taken care of. That spirit of surrender to nature. Let me play my part, and I'll be taken care of. This is at the heart of karma yoga. Without this, it's all useless. Huh? Without this attitude, there's no. It's karma bhoga. It's not karma yoga. Without this attitude, it's karma bhoga. It's not karma yoga. So we talked about yajna in the last couple of classes. I thought I'll set the tone with that. Are there any questions from the previous class?
I have two questions if anybody else doesn't have.
No, you ask your question. That is most important.
So you were just saying only, so the verse 12, it's written that it is the spirit of repaying, not the actual compensation that matters. So in line with what you were explaining just now, is it the attitude that
Sorry, I'm just going to. So you're picking this up from a particular
verse
verse. Which
12?
verse is this?
Verse 12.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it is the
Which
spirit
paragraph?
of repaying.
Which paragraph is this?
Last paragraph, last second line.
Yeah.
Second last line. Oh, he also quoted Prophet Muhammad out here. Okay. Be grateful to the source of benevolence and repay whatever and whenever you can. It is the spirit of repaying, not the actual compensation that matters. Okay, so what's your question?
So the question was only this, only that it's written that the spirit of repaying is important. So you were talking about the attitude. Is it a very similar thing?
Yeah, indeed. It's the attitude that matters. See, it's not the quantum of, see, the moment I say you have to, you know, have an unselfish goal or a selfless goal, you think, oh, you have to, shift continents around and be this absolutely, do things at a certain scale and, give away all your money and become this, person moving around without any wants or desires. No, none of that is what is being asked. It's not about the quantum of giving that matters. Of course, that doesn't mean only the attitude matters. That attitude, that thought must follow, action must follow the thought, right? The deed must follow the thought. But what's more important, what's of utmost important is the spirit of giving, is the spirit of, playing your part, is the spirit of reaping. See, a lot of people can give, but there's either tamas or rajas involved in it. When I say tamas, they give with a sense of arrogance. Hmm? Look, I'm giving you. You better worship me. Uh, Because these ungrateful people, they don't care about anything I do for them. Yeah. It's a tamasic thought. Why? Because you're giving, but what is underlying that thought? I should get. I should get. If not the money back, at least I should get name and respect back. Uh, or how imagine it's very hard to explain this example, but you've probably seen it in movies, a very wealthy, especially in the 70s, 80s, when they wanted to portray all capitalists as bad and evil people. Very often you'll see a laborer coming to an industrialist and asking for something, and the industrialist will, give it out of a sense of disdain. Uh, Imagine someone he's giving something, and then he kicks it to him, gives it with his legs, giving with a sense of arrogance and with a sense of insult. It's very rare, but people do that. They have that tremendous ego. I am the superior one. So you can give with that attitude also. You can give with an attitude of expecting a return. You can give with an attitude of wanting to benefit from it. You can give with an attitude of that's rajasic. It's better than tamasic. But for example, this class, I can give you this knowledge with the attitude of, okay, how will I benefit from it? What am I going to gain from it? I'm going to gain these people's respect and following. I'm going to gain a name for myself, right? That's rajasic giving. Beyond rajasic and tamasic giving is sattvic giving. Sattvic giving is giving to the right person at the right place at the right time without any expectation of anything. Playing your part. Because it's done in the spirit of repayment. So what matters most is the spirit of repayment rather than the actual compensation. Because the actual compensation, of course, it's not that you should just have the spirit and not compensate, but if you lack the spirit, then the compensation can be polluted by a tamasic or a rajasic attitude. So the sattvic attitude is of utmost importance. Thereafter, whatever is within your capacity or whatever is possible in circumstances, that will be given. That will be the actual compensation. That makes sense. What is your second question?
So in verse 11, that is also almost towards the end, the last lines. So
Mm.
the inherent bounty in the field of activity will bless you. So
Mm.
can you give an example like this? The last, again, verse just above verse 12. Yeah. The inherent bounty in the field of work then becomes worship.
This is verse 11.
Yeah, verse 11, almost at the end, the last paragraph.
You have to, ये आपके आप जब करेंगे तो अपने आप होगा, तभी पता चलेगा ये.
I want an example, that's the reason.
Any organization, if it like what Utsav always talks, कि अगर वो जो टॉप पर्सन है वो अगर वो सिर्फ ये नहीं सोचेगा कि मेरे को ही रुपया बनाना है, मेरे को एग्रेनाइज करना है, वो अगर ये सोचेगा कि नहीं मेरे जो नेक्स्ट लेवल के लोग हैं हमको दे ऑल्सो प्रॉस्पर, तो वो जब प्रॉस्पर करेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली जो टॉप है उसका अपने आप ही बेनिफिट हो जाएगा ना. आप कोई भी चीज में देख लीजिए लाइफ में, अगर आप थोड़ा सा भी ध्यान रखेंगे तो उसका बेनिफिट कितना बाद में आता है, वो उस समय नहीं आता है बेनिफिट, बट वो बाउंटी की तरह बाद में आएगा ही आएगा.
Okay, yeah, so that's absolutely right. I mean, this is one of those "yah pashyati saha pashyati" statements, right? The inherent bounty in the field of activity will bless you. See, we work with a scarcity mindset, and in this scarcity mindset, we think, how can I get as much as I can? You know, because I think there's a lack of money, there's a lack of pleasure, there's a lack of enjoyment, there's a lack of love. So you function with a scarcity mindset, right? But actually, there's an abundance. Yeah, pashyati saha pashyati. Really, those who see it. Huh? One of the most pleasurable experiences, waking up early in the morning and seeing the sunrise. Next time you wake up early in the morning, go to Foreshore Road. You know Foreshore Road
Yeah, Howrah.
in Howrah. Go to Foreshore Road and see the sun come up above above the river. The homeless people experience it every day, uh, living on the streets.
But they
So
don't release it, no?
that's a different thing. But the point is that there is a bounty. There is a bountiful. There is a um, abundance. We function with a scarcity mindset, and we always associate an action with what can I get out of it. Why? Because we have this anxiety, we have this expectation, this attachment to the result, right? So this attitude of yajna is asking you to shift your attention from the result to the action, shift your attention from what can I get to what can I do. And what he's assuring out here is simply what in the verse he is saying. In the verse, what is the Lord assured? In the verse, the Lord is assured that you shall attain supreme good. It's an assurance. Function like this and you will be taken care of. Right? In any field, I gave you the example of my own organization, for example, and this is true for any organization. We are looking for people who are wanting to take leadership and initiative. It's a blank check. Blank check. Of course, you have to have some competency, but beyond competency, there are hundreds of people who have competency, but very few people who have initiative. In any field, those who have taken a step ahead and not worried about what can I get, focused on what they can do, how they can innovate, how they can create, those people are the richest in their fields. Hmm? Those people are enjoying incredible freedom. So even in the world of commerce, it's see, talk to people who maybe spent 7, 8 to 10 years in their careers. Uh, What was their thought in the beginning of their career? What is their thought now? Of course, their aspirations and expectations of have increased, no doubt. But what they thought in the first 2 years of their career, and where they are now, if they have worked with dedication and consistency, I can guarantee you they've ended up exceeding what they had thought they could achieve. Let's say only in monetary terms. Only in monetary terms, they are enjoying more than they could have imagined. They would have thought, okay, in 6 years my salary should be this much. In 8 years my salary, they probably double of that if they have worked with a sense of dedication, right? So this is what he's saying, that the action itself is bountiful. We are always worried, oh, how will I benefit from this? But if you dedicate yourself to a purpose, there is an inherent bounty in the action itself, and it will bless you in ways you cannot imagine. Beyond monetary benefit, there'll be a deeper satisfaction. There'll be a deep, deep satisfaction. But none of these words will ring true unless you actually function like this. These are all words until you actually function like this, right? Um, but this is the assurance of the scripture. This is the agami. This is the tradition we have to put weightage on, because this is the words of the Lord, Bhagavad Gita, right? He's assuring us. So, so if it doesn't happen, you can go back and file a complaint against him. Listen, Lord Krishna has promised so many things, but it's all rubbish. File a complaint in the God's bureau. This God is making unnecessary promises, unreasonable promises.
Act of God.
But it always
Huh?
happens.
Act of God.
But see, it's one thing to say it, without having experienced it, right? So uh, it's a different pleasure when you actually function in this way. Yeah, pashyati sa pashyati. Yes, Ankit.
Thank you so much.
So I remember Ilayaraja in one of the master Ilayaraja in one of his interview has said, "When I do the music, I'm forgetting myself. I become the music."
Mm,
That was a quote given by this thing, Ilayaraja. It is when the
indeed,
self is not there, the best of the thing comes out of that.
indeed. So that's also what we talked about last time, right? Going from instant gratification to a selfish goal, to an unselfish goal, to a spirit of purpose. What's happening through each level is the focus is shifting from I, the actor, to the action. The emphasis, weightage is shifting from me to the action. So a perfect person is one who completely immerses themselves, who completely dissolves themselves in their purpose, right? Um, it's called selflessness. Yes, Ankit, you were asking something.
Yes. So in the last class, we had spoken about, how a lot of workplaces are rustic in nature. And so my question and you'll find it difficult to, really like get people to sort of, your superiors or your colleagues to, take a move beyond mediocrity, as you termed it. So my question is that when you're operating in such an environment, can you find purpose by contributing to such an environment, or do you then find purpose in other activities in your life, such as your family or your community, or is that a call to actually then sort of assess whether that environment is the right place for you.
Yeah. No, see, every environment has its um, part to play in your life and its limitation also. If you're trying to turn a uh, a Rajasic organization, because whatever said and done, ultimately a business is a Rajasic environment. No matter how much of sattva we try to bring into it, we Rajas is predominant out there, and that's how it should be, right? Um, so to turn it into a a sattvic foundation, it's like you're trying to turn an organization into an ashram.
Yeah.
So an ashram is an example of a sattvic organization. A business is an example of a rajasic organization. I'm saying predominant.
Yeah.
Remember, any environment is the combination of all three. What is predominant, right? So these environments have a role in your life, and the idea is to understand their place, their part, and their limitation. Beyond the point, you can't work against nature. You can't try to change the inherent nature of something, right? It'll be wrong to, it'll be foolish to, right? And so, as you become more and more sattvic, we see people withdrawing from the din and roar of the marketplace. If not physically withdrawing, at least mentally withdrawing, right? Because the marketplace is a marketplace, it is a Rajasic environment. So while we say that Vedanta ought to be practiced in the din and roar of the marketplace, here we are speaking to predominantly tamasic people. You and I, we have so much tamas in us. So we have to convert that to rajas and then turn it into sattva. We have to function in the world to grow. But beyond the point, beyond a certain stage, the truth is that ultimately we turn vanaprastha. What is vanaprastha? It's a sense of withdrawal, right? So long as an environment is, you have a role to play in it, so long as, and when do you have a role to play in it? When you have associated goals in it. So why will you play a role in an organization when you have material, financial, maybe even certain obligatory, say for example, someone who has benefited from a field, they may feel the obligation to say serve as a mentor in a certain place. Say Narayan Murthy or some other kind of, uh, person. They have benefited so much, so now they're spending maybe the next 10 years being mentors. And beyond the point, maybe they'll withdraw entirely, completely. So this is the natural progression of how an environment serves its purpose in your life. There's a beautiful symbiotic relationship with any environment, and then eventually you outgrow it because of the stage of life you are in or you choose to take, right? So this is not only true in the material realm, this is even true in a spiritual realm. Say, for example, I often give this example, the ashram has a certain role to play in your sadhana, right? Going to an ashram is important. Coming out of an ashram is also very important. Huh? And then, you'll find other environments which will help you sort of on your journey. So it's a constant assessment you will have to make based on your self-analysis. What do you need in your sadhana right now? Right? As a sadhak, you may have realized, okay, I have certain grihastha, roles and responsibilities. So in a grihastha, yes, you may have to occupy an environment of an occupation, an environment of a certain social, strata and a social, uh, you know, uh, environment where you're engaging with others and maybe having a social life. You'll have kids, so you'll have to occupy a certain, you'll have to be part of parents groups, etc., etc. These are all environments that have a certain part to play in your journey. But it's also important to understand what is the limitation, right? And when the right time comes, you'll be ready to move on. I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, yeah, it does.
Om Ji, Namaste. Yes.
Namaste, Utsav ji. You have mentioned about Muhammad. I have heard in his lifetime, he used to say, whenever you cook something, wherever the smell of the food goes, he is invited. And
Mm,
to feed the people before he eats. This was his attitude of giving. So
mm,
you need to learn. You have mentioned in this also the name of Muhammad. So I learned from many people from here. So this is what was his attitude of giving. Whenever you cook something, smell of the food, wherever it goes, whosoever smells it is invited. So this is the
indeed.
attitude. Yeah, this is the attitude. This is
Wonderful.
the attitude of giving.
Absolutely. Correct. Very, very right. And these are the small rituals we have uh, to only emphasize that the attitude should be after you. The Swamiji puts it slightly differently. He says, the English have an attitude of after you. Uh, you're getting up from your seat on the plane, and you're rushing to go out and trying to beat the other person to the line, running to immigration. Everyone forgets after you, on a flight, or everyone forgets after you when you have to squeeze into a lift to go. Can you have that attitude after you? Please help yourself. And we're going to come to this right now, precisely in this next verse. This attitude of after you. That is, a sattvic person functions in the spirit of after you.
Can I, excuse me, can I just say something?
Anji, please.
So, I was just on a trip to Bali, and what beautiful thing I saw there was outside every shop, outside every house, there's a little temple, like a pagoda. And twice a day, they take a plate made out of banana and they would put flowers, fruit, everything that they eat, a little biscuit, a little piece of rice, and I would also see a piece of cigarette. So, I was very inquisitive. Why are they offering cigarette to their God? So I asked that lady that why. She said, see, tobacco is made by God and we are smoking. So we should offer that also, because if he's made it, it should be offered to him.
Yeah.
So like strange places, strange rituals, but
Yeah,
it's
the
quite,
idea is that everything we are utilizing and taking from and benefiting from one way or the other.
yeah,
It's
that's what she
like
said. Whatever we
even to
consume, we have to give it to them,
even
otherwise we'll be thieves. So same thing,
even
So
even in this country, we offer even to certain forms of Shivji, we offer alcohol, and we offer all sorts of other things. So yeah, it's curious, but it's wonderful.
yeah.
He who eats without producing is a thief. You must have the spirit of offering. Yeah, and that offering is actually a repayment, right? So that's what we're saying, that this you have taken from the world, and so you must give back, right? You must give back. You must have that attitude of repayment. If you don't have this attitude of a yajna, then you're a thief. Big words, very, very strong words, but this is what it is. This is what the Lord is saying. So he who eats without producing is indeed a thief. So that's a tamasic way of functioning, where you have no attitude of contributing. मैं करूँ आराम, सब करे काम. Let me enjoy. You want to be served. And people have such a hoity attitude. Especially I see in some of these hotels and all. Just because they think they've paid some money, they think they start owning the other person. And they get offended when something is not done according to their liking. So we've taken, especially in this country, hospitality has been turned into something else altogether. It's a strange avenue for people to express their arrogance. So we're not saying you shouldn't be catered to and you shouldn't enjoy the pleasures, but don't develop the arrogance of it. Don't develop the arrogance of it. In any environment, have the attitude of what can I do? How can I play my part? What's expected out of me? It's a beautiful way of functioning. Otherwise, the Lord says you're a thief. Verse number 13.
One small thing, so actually,
Yes,
when
tell me.
1947, if I am right, I think Hiroshima and Nagasaki has happened in Japan. And
45.
and that particular time, India had everything. In India, we got any mineral. It's not undermining India, but that time I'm talking about. So India was having every mineral, you name it, anything, the natural minerals and other things are there. But if you look at Japan, nothing was available there. There's no natural minerals and other things were available. And of everyone, top 7 people industries met and they said how to bring Japan into the top. And they understood there is going to be a scarcity and there is no raw material available in Japan. They imported it, technology only they made it. To cut the story short, everyone was in Japan was thinking about how to get the Japan up instead of thinking about themselves. And that's the growth story of Japan. If I'm right, it's the third best economy in the world at this given point in time. Thank you.
Yeah. And some of you will know that Japan is very close to my heart. I'm really fond of that culture. So it's an incredible example of how Sahayagnya, the idea of a yagnya, everyone coming together, it's very simple. It's not very complicated. Just an attitude of how can I build the nation? How can it be a part of building the nation? I'm not saying everyone is a selfless saint in Japan. To be. But if enough people come together to have this collective attitude, um, of course, that taken to an extreme has its own problems. People, when they lose that sense of proportion, um, when they get into a fever of doing. So in many ways, Japanese culture, if you look at it, they've developed a fever of doing, and they've developed an obsession with karma. So when you're able to have that attitude of uh, of playing your part, that's beautiful. One pitfall which you have to be careful of is not developing an arrogation. Oh, this is my responsibility. This is my duty. I must do this, right? So if you look at Japanese culture and you want to critique it in some ways, that is also a possible reason why, to a large extent, there's a lot of depression in that country as well, right? Because people have developed social stigmas. The social stigmas around action, so that's the other side of the story. So the beauty of the spirit of yajna is that, um, first of all, you have to understand that this is your duty. At the same time, you have to understand that you are not indispensable. You're not all important. uh, if not you, then someone else. So just play your part. Don't take it too seriously. uh, don't take it too seriously. So we can talk a lot about it, but but nonetheless, Japanese culture is wonderful. Okay, verse number 13. Yajnashishtashinas santah muchyante sarva kilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papaha ye pachantyatma karana. Yajnashishtashinas santah muchyante sarva kilbishaihi bhunjate te tvagam papaha ye pachantyatma karana. The righteous who forsake eat sin. The righteous who eat the remnants of sacrifice are freed from all sin, but those sinners who cook for their own sake eat sin. Every now and then the Lord has a way of confusing us. What is he trying to say? Here I was understanding Yajna so well. Now he's talking about cooking, eating, sinning. I thought I was understanding, and now he's. So he's talking in this metaphor, beautiful metaphor of cooking, right? First of all, the idea we said before, sin is mental agitation. Sin is mental agitation caused by you performing an action which you shouldn't perform, according to you, shouldn't have performed. When an action rebounds and causes a sense of guilt, causes a sense of agitation, anxiety, stress, a regret, that feeling, that agitation is the root of sin. Sin is that mental agitation. Because usually, generally, when we think of sin in the Christian sense, we think, oh, sin is a bad action. No. In a Vedantic sense, that's not what we call sin. Sin is mental agitation of an action that rebounds as a sense of guilt, regret, remorse. So, what he's saying in the half of the verse first, those sinners who cook for their own sake eat sin. Those sinners who cook for their own sake eat sin. We've talked about a tamasic person. Who's a tamasic person? Who cooks, who eats without cooking. If you have to take this analogy of cooking even to the previous verse, one who eats without cooking. खुद तो खाना नहीं बनाते हैं, बट खाना चाहते हैं और खाते रहना चाहते हैं. कोई और मेरे लिए खाना बनाए. मेरा खाना नहीं बना. हाँ, अभी तक मेरा खाना नहीं बना. Who want to eat without producing, who want to eat without cooking, they are thieves. That's a tamasik. Now in this verse, those who cook, but for their own sake. Those who cook, but for their own sake. Matlab, I am doing an action, but for my own benefit. What am I going to get out of it? How will it help me? How will it fit me? What's in it for me? Those who cook for their own sake, we think that kind of action will bring us prosperity. We think that kind of action will actually help us get what we want. We think, oh, that kind of action will ensure that whatever I need will be assured to me. That is the attitude we have. That's the idea we have, that if I function in this way, at least I'll ensure that I'm taken care of. He says, no, 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 no. Those who cook for their own sake, they don't eat that food. Even if they eat that food, they don't actually enjoy it. They eat sin. Means they experience agitation, stress, worry. No selfish person is happy in this world, period. A selfish person may have a lot. A selfish person may have aggrandized a lot of wealth, may have aggrandized a lot of name. In fact, most people have a big retinue. The moment you have wealth, you'll have a retinue around you. So you'll have name, fame, you'll have prosperity in that sense, in a very outer sense. In an external sense, you'll have all of these things. But internally, you'll be lonely, you'll be agitated, you'll be worried, you'll have a fear of losing what you've gained, you'll have a tremendous attachment, you'll be lost. Hmm. See, if this was true, if it was true that cooking for your own sake brings prosperity, then the wealthy would have been the most mentally satisfied also, right? Isn't it? The wealthy would have been the most mentally clear and satisfied. But the paradox we see in this world is that the more sense of material freedom you get, the more stressed and anxious and worried you are. It's a paradox. Huh? The level of depression and the level of um, angst is only increasing in this world. I'm not saying don't be wealthy. I'm not saying don't enjoy pleasures. Please, by all means, this world is there for you to enjoy. But there's something missing. So if you simply function in a way where you're cooking for your own sake, I, me, my, and then when that doesn't happen, oh my God, what will happen to me? Oh my God, how will I succeed? Out there also the focus is on I, me, my. Those who cook for their own sake eat sin, period. They're agitated, they're stressed, they're worried. So on the first hand, you have a set of people who are tamasic, who eat but don't cook. They are thieves, tamasic. Then you have a set which is rajasic, predominantly rajasic. Why? Their attitude in the world is they function in a way where they cook but for themselves. They perform selfish action or egoistic action, a sense of arrogation in their action. They eat sin. They are always agitated. They are always stressed and worried. A third category of people is the sattvic people, and that's the first part of this verse which I'll hop on right now. The righteous who eat the remnants of sacrifice, like Prophet Muhammad, he'll first feed those who have smelled the food. That spirit of after you, the spirit of Aprevu after you. The righteous who eat the remnants of sacrifice means everyone else has enjoyed. First of all, they've been part of the sacrifice, means they're cooking, they are participating in this collective action. So they are playing their part. And having played their part, they don't rush to enjoy the benefits themselves first. They first let the others enjoy and are happy with the remnants of sacrifice. जो भी बचा है, the righteous who eat the remnants of sacrifice are freed from all sins. Means, I don't know about $1 billion. They may not get $1 billion, but they'll be free from all sins. Mean they'll be free from all agitations. They'll be clear, peaceful, collected. They'll breathe an ethereal air. You decide what you want. You decide what you want. You want a 10-figure bank balance, or you want an ethereal air. It's actually not mutually exclusive. You can have both. It's not mutually exclusive. You can enjoy a 10-figure bank balance also, and you can breathe an ethereal air also. But you'll breathe in ethereal air only if you function selflessly. Only if you function in the spirit. If you're righteous, you eat the remnants of sacrifice. Means you play your part and you let others enjoy from that yajna. भोग बढ़ रहा है, आप दूसरे को खाने दो. प्रसाद का जो भी बचेगा, छोटा मोटा, I'm happy with that. It's that same idea that nature will take care of me. See, the beautiful paradox is that here you have the attitude that let others enjoy and I'm happy with the remnants. But what did he guarantee 2 verses ago? He guaranteed that such a person will attain the supreme good. Nature will take care of them. But this is the catch-22. The catch-22 is you have to first function like this. We are always worried, Mera kya hoga? So we never start functioning like this only. You function like this and सब अच्छा होगा. But we can't digest it. हम भगवत गीता को मानते हैं but की नहीं मानते. Bhagavad Gita. We'll keep it on a pedestal. But we don't follow what is actually written inside it. This is what is written inside it. Function selflessly. Be content with the remnants of sacrifice.
So
Not only will you be freed from all sin, but you'll also attain the supreme good. You'll enjoy the bliss that is there. Anji.
what if what you're saying, like you take the remnants of the sacrifice? Somebody can argue, or like I know that it has a kartit prabhav, and I'm doing the job, I'm taking out everything. I also take care of others. I also give, but there's a difference in attitude here कि मैं तो ले रहा हूं और जो remnants है वो मैं दूंगा. मैं दूंगा, remnants दूंगा.
हाँ ठीक है. See, that's better than not giving. Huh? That's better than not giving. So if that's the level people can conceive, please by all means. But if you want to climb the spiritual ladders to the next level, if you want to, nobody's asking you to. Okay, this is not a moral science. This is not something you should do or God will punish you. No. If you see value in this, spiritual ladder, if you want to breathe an ethereal air, बंदर क्या जाने अदरक का स्वाद. हम सब बंदर हैं. हम सब बंदर हैं. We have no idea the ethereal air that the sages and saints are breathing. We think the ethereal air is in the 110th floor of a Dubai apartment. That's the
उससे जी इसको अगर दूसरी तरफ से सोचें, जापान was one of the biggest steel producers, and they never had iron, they never had coal also. So iron ore, Aladila में पहाड़ थे iron ore के, but they were not buying from the
Mm.
source. वो जब बारिश से बाहर परसेंटेज बहुत कम होती है, they were buying that,
Mm.
which was remnant actually, and then
Mm.
they were completely buying from India, Belladilla,
Mm.
and they arranged high sea loading also, and
Mm.
everything they arranged and then were buying from there, and they were one of the biggest producer of steel, 100
Mm.
100 million tons of steel they were producing at one time. Now they are not the biggest, but still they were. So this is the attitude of,
Indeed.
India was giving, because India के लिए useless था उस वक्त. They were not using, iron ore fines, but Japan was using iron ore fines because उसमें percentage बहुत कम थी, and gladly give them. So this is,
So the idea is slightly different. Yeah,
it
it's
is
slightly
different, no
different,
doubt,
but
no
we get
doubt,
what
it
you're
is
saying.
different. But India was giving it gladly. Now they are not giving to anybody.
So you just said
Chalo.
that
Okay.
sages and the sages and saints breathe an ethereal air. So
Hmm.
they don't have a lot of obligations. But can a grihastha also breathe an ethereal air?
Of course, you think sages and saints are only those who don't have obligations? The best of sages are grihastis. The best of sages are grihastis. You've seen. The point is, most people, most sages are unseen, unknown, not celebrated, and they don't want to be celebrated also. See, a sage is not one who is only cross grihastha. A sage is one who has this attitude of yajna. That makes you a sage. If you have the attitude of yajna, you're a sage. Period. Doesn't matter what your age is, what your stage is. Also, it's not like, oh, because someone has gone into Vanaprastha that they are lucky. No, 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 no. They have gone into Vanaprastha only because they have functioned in the right way through Grihastha. They have been a sage through Grihastha. That's why they have reached Vanaprastha, right?
नानक
So it's
वाली
not like हाँ उनके लिए तो आराम आसान है, हमारे लिए मुश्किल है. नहीं नहीं. That's here and now. Okay, I was thinking of
It
taking
is not.
another verse, but a lot of people have questions. So let's take up questions. Ankit, yeah.
So, speaking of sin as mental agitation, so I would say that, the sattvic are free of mental agitation, but, the tamasic may also be, just because of their sort of delusion or something, free of mental agitation. So beyond mental agitation, like, where do you go after mental, like not having mental agitation? What is the next step?
No, don't equate the peace of a tamasic person to a sattvic person. The absence of sorrow is not the same as the freedom from sorrow, right? So again, superficially, you're absolutely right. Superficially, outwardly, it appears as though a tamasic person is exactly like a sattvic person. Tamas mimics sattva, but by mimicking, it doesn't become sattva, right? The ethereal air that a sattvic person breathes is far more invigorating, is far more elevated than the air of indifference of a tamasic person, right? So that's the meaning of the word ethereal, right? A tamasic person has an air of indifference. The sattvic person has an air of liberation. Very different. So freedom from mental agitation is a very a very superficial way of looking at it, right? Um, the the sense of fulfillment is far deeper. It's inconceivably deeper. Uh, um, um, a tamasic person is a ticking time bomb. They are not agitated right now, but it'll all come and blast once and for all. When they can't ignore what they have been ignoring for so long. When they can't remain indifferent to what they've been indifferent to for so long. So tamasic peace is actually a ticking time bomb, whereas the sattvic peace is permanent. Very different.
Yeah, so beyond just, cessation of mental agitation, there's, a sense of fulfillment.
Absolutely. You can, if you want to argue, you can argue that also, that a tamasic person is also fulfilled. Right? But the nature of that fulfillment is far different. If it is challenged, if it is poked, if it is provoked, it won't stand the test of, you know, it won't stand the test of being challenged.
I mean, you can pass through your entire, life in a delusion, but yeah, I mean,
No, indeed you can. Now, the point is that only because you are trying to become sattvic, you're able to see them as different. You're absolutely right. Most people remain. In fact, the reason why most people remain tamasic, a tamasic person argues that this is the same as sattva. I'm happy. All is good. Why should I bother? Why take stress? Huh? Why take stress? Tamasic attitude. A sattvic person doesn't take stress, but a tamasic person has the attitude, why take stress? A sattvic person jumps into the cauldron and is able to weather the storm. A sattvic, a tamasic person will not stay away from the, So heaven and earth difference, heaven and hell difference. But most people remain tamasic for this same thing because they're not able to distinguish the deeper satisfaction from their sense of indifference. Right? So you're right, and most people remain that way. Okay. Yeah, Gaurav, you had a question.
Sir, this after you in food, it's food prasad or maybe in a flight. But sir, how do we start this and from where does it start and how do we inculcate this apart from these things in our life, sir?
Charity
And can
begins at home. Started with
so
started with your immediate obligations. Started
after
at your workplace. Started with your family members.
after home, sir. Home is yes, home is one which is the first. Charity. It starts from there. You're right. That's where it starts. It. But sir, on the
Yeah,
bigger picture, sir.
this is the biggest picture. You do it at home, it's the biggest picture.
पहले
Succeed here.
रचना को पहले खिलाना शुरू करो.
This is no, honestly, this is the biggest picture, right?
But then, sir, it isn't
If
me, myself, sir, if it is just the home, sir.
no, see your entire world, yeah, which is your home, your workplace. That's 80% of your world. Do it there. Hmm? See, this doesn't. This is not a demarcation. We're not saying that. The idea is that you don't have to go anywhere to practice this. Whatever life brings to you, you have this attitude. That's the idea. You don't have to go somewhere and do something big and grand, to practice this attitude of yajna. So when charity begins at home, I'm not saying it. Of course, idea is whatever life brings you, you have this attitude. But if you can't practice it at home, that means something is wrong. Kuch gadbad hai. You've not got the message. You're an armchair philosopher. You can't practice with your children, with your immediate family, with your domestic help, with those immediately your local shopkeeper. Huh? You can't practice it with the Amazon delivery boy or the Zomato delivery boy that comes to your house. You can't practice it with your workplace, your immediate colleagues, your people reporting to you, your organization. If you can't practice it here, there's nowhere else to practice it. And see, this is like a test. Nature will give you bigger avenues to practice if you perfect it out here. Nature is also looking for those who are willing to take initiative. If you, this is like a POC, proof of concept. Your home is a proof of concept. If you do it well, nature will give you bigger roles and responsibility. Okay, yeah, Bala.
In a limited sense, be it Tata or Warren Buffett or Microsoft, they are also following this principle of remnants of sacrifice. They donate a good amount of money in a limited sense.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on in their minds, but certainly they are very smart and they're very committed, and they have definitely overcome a lot of tamas. They have overcome a lot of tamas to be where they are, right? Uh, I can't speak on any individual. See how sattvic one is. You can only ascertain through, first of all, you have to be sattvic to a certain sattva in someone else, right?
Like Warren
You
Buffett
don't really.
donated 87% of his, we might be knowing, right? 80% of his earnings to the charity. In a limited sense, I also get into the other part of it. In a limited sense, they earn a lot of money and give it back to the society.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm not qualified to comment on that. So, indeed, it sounds like an incredible feat that someone has donated so much of their uh, their wealth. No doubt about it. One may argue that had they been Vedantin, maybe I don't know. I don't know. I'm not qualified to comment on it. But no doubt that to having it's also a testament that even those who have achieved so much materially recognize that there's something more to life than just material aggrandizement, right? It's only a strong indicator for all of us who are chasing more wealth and more status, that those who have reached the zenith of that, you can't cross a Buffett or you can't cross a Zuckerberg or you can't cross. I mean, maybe you can have a few more billions than them, but they've reached the zenith of what it is to have material abundance. Even they are, they find greater joy in giving it away than in keeping it, right? So that's definitely a strong indicator to all of us that.
Yesterday, Preeti Zinta donated her IPL stake to the
Huh?
Army Welfare Wife.
Yes.
So I'm following cricket.
Okay.
So we all talk about these big names when we have to say, but that's an argument तामसिक people give कि मेरे पास भी होगा ना इतना तब हम देंगे मेरे पास भी इतना होगा ना then I'll have that
Correct.
attitude.
That's why I
How do
refrain from commenting on that. That's why I refrain from commenting on that, because then the argument will come, कि ठीक है यार, let me first become a Warren Buffett, then I'll give.
so how do we learn enough is enough or when enough is enough?
That's a different concept altogether. And
I'll just we will only give also we should know that we have received we'll give but we also need to have something then only we'll जब तक पेट नहीं भरा हुआ होगा एग्जाम just giving an example तब तक देने का कोई बात ही नहीं आएगा.
देखिए, मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ बिकॉज आपका पेट भरा हुआ है. अगर आपका पेट भरा हुआ नहीं होता तो आप सुबह 8 बजे मेरे से यहाँ बात नहीं कर रहे होते. हाँ, आप अभी लोकल ट्रेन में होते, जा रहे होते अपने काम करने के लिए, कुछ करने के लिए. जिनको अपना पेट भरना है वो ऑलरेडी अपना आधा दिन बिता चुके हैं काम करने में. तो आपका मेरा पेट भरा हुआ है, हम आराम कर रहे हैं, इसलिए हम ऐसी बातें कर रहे हैं. तो वो बात तो आती, दैट्स अ गिवन दैट इफ you have to have a certain level, a minimum threshold, and that threshold also differs for different people. So no one is to judge ki what is your threshold, right? In fact, you'll find saints among those who have very little, people coming from very, very modest backgrounds, where you and I can't even imagine of functioning in that kind of, material status, are truly saintly. So the idea of enough also is it differs for different people. But at least for all practical purposes, all of us can argue that in this classroom, if all of us are sitting, we are we've got definitely a little more than we need to, survive, right?
Certainly. पेट कितना भरा हुआ है उसके ऊपर देखना है.
When is enough? Enough is a different concept, and 2 minutes में समझाया नहीं जाता. I don't want to confuse people also. कि यार ये क्या बोल रहे हैं? It will take a little bit of, but we can talk about it at some point. Any other question? There was someone who had the hand raised up. If not, we'll conclude. And thank you so much. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank
Hari Om.
you.
So.